Staff, Farrelly, welcome to our ordinary meeting for December for this. Remind councillors to put your phones and that on silent. Yeah. You've done that, haven't you, Councillor Smith? Well done.
It's the iPad. I never turn it on, so I can't hear my phone.
I'd just like to hand over to Councillor Polly to do the.
Great. Yes, we would love to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians on the land in which this meeting is taking place, the Cubby Cubby and the Gubby Gubby people, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. And we'd also like to extend that respect to all the people present and those watching online.
Thank you. I'll now hand over to Father Farrelly, who will say a few words of wisdom and lead us in prayer.
Very good, very good. I did not get to the Christmas in the Park on Saturday night, yes. I had mass down in Kandanga, but heard that it was a great event. I was talking to some of the chaps yesterday, and they said they estimated 6,000 or 7,000 people, which is the biggest apparently it's been for an age, and they said it was a great spirit, and the weather was kind, because I thought at one stage it was going to get rained on, but just want to acknowledge, the support of council. That was without it, that sort of event just can't get off the ground. But like the ministers that were, were most appreciative of all of that. And I was thinking of the people singing Christmas carols and all the rest of it. And I was saying to our people, like we set up as well as Christmas trees, we tend not to have Santa in the church, even though he comes from St. Nicholas, who apparently is the patron saint of pawnbrokers. Now, you just need to know that. Right? And you've ever wondered about the 3 golden balls, outside of pawnbrokers, shop. Apparently St. Nicholas gave 3 bundles of gold. Where he got the gold from, don't ask me, but bishops can do these things. So, to a chap who had 3 daughters and they didn't have dowries. So he's become the patron saint of pawnbrokers, but then somehow I think he also morphed into being Santa Claus, right? Santa Claus, so St. Nicholas, and it was his feast day just the other day. But like I was thinking of what we have. We set up cribs, the birth of Jesus, which is what Christmas it is about, and so we set up little statues, and we have Mary and Joseph, baby in the middle, and then there's angels and shepherds and wise men from the east and stars. And I was saying to the folk, I said, what we've done, only in St. Luke and St. Matthew's versions of the gospel do you get stories of Jesus as a child. But what we've done in making a crib, we put all those bits and pieces into a food blender and ignored the particularity of Luke or Matthew and gathered them all together. But the emphasis is on a message going out to a whole world. So born in simplicity, raised in simplicity, great impact on the world. The wise men who came from the east were not Jews, they were pagans. And so it's a message that's meant for consumption by the world. And then I was thinking of the angels singing and of the council here, right? Do I think of you as angels? Thank you. We right, Dolly? Yeah, okay. Even if you do throw lollies around. Right, there we go. But the angels sang, when they came to the shepherds, glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace among people of good will. And I thought, even though we come from, great variety of religious backgrounds and outlooks on the world and everything else. I thought in terms of the work that you do as a council, goodwill, peace among people of goodwill. Pope John, we had a big council 60 years ago in Rome, and one of the most important documents wasn't addressed to cardinals and bishops and all of the others. It was addressed to the world, to people of goodwill. And I thought, this is where the council works within our community. There's issues all there. We desire peace. We look for goodwill, but we know, the effects of drugs and alcohol and spawns domestic violence. Not that you need those two to do that, but peace and goodwill is something that our society needs. So I thought, what say we just pray about that in terms of what you guys can do in terms of, from all your backgrounds, but to inject into the outlook of council that we want peace, goodwill, and we want individuals to be valued. And so, what say we pray about that? Gracious and loving God, we as Christians, we believe, I as Christian believe that we're made in the image and likeness of God, so we have all of your gifts, your insight and your wisdom. You set us in the world, we can't see you, but the world can see us. And so we, from all our backgrounds, we move into our world, desiring peace, not just in the world at large, but in the smaller worlds of our homes, in Gympie and in the region. We pray for those places that don't know peace for one reason or another. We pray that people's hearts will change, because it's only there that peace finds the fertile soil out of which it grows. For that to happen, we pray that people will have a sense of goodwill towards themselves, but goodwill towards others, whether they're driving on the roads or shopping in the shopping centres, especially at Christmas time, and when people are busy doing all sorts of things, and at times coming together when at other times they don't come together. So that itself can be an aggravation, and so we ask that your blessing come upon them. But we ask your blessing upon the council, that your conversations with each other will always reflect peace, understanding, goodwill. When you come to a great argument about something, that you can still argue, trusting that the other person is being fair dinkum, and give them always the benefit of the doubt, so to respect their dignity. But let your blessing come on this group of men and women and all who work to make the council the unit it is in the betterment of our society. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
We'll just rise up for 1 minute silence to remember those who passed away in their region. Thank you. And before you go, Pastor, I'd just like to also echo your words around Christmas in the Park. It was amazing, the number of people that were there, a truly successful event, and that was a good example where council does its best work when we work with groups, and that, I was just blown away by the number of people that there. a wonderful job by the combined team.
Yeah.
Please pass on our appreciation.
Will do.
Thank you.
All the best.
I'm sorry, I probably missed it. Which church are you from?
Catholic, St Pat's,
St.
the
Pat's.
little one up on the hill.
Right. Very lucky to have you. Thank you very much.
Be good. Take
Councillors, we'll move on to section 1, disclosure of interests. Anyone got any interest in this place? Councillor Mill?
7.4 and 11.1 declarables.
Anyone else? Councillor Fredman?
Declarable, section 11.
All of 11 or just every item in 11 or just
11.1 to 11.5.
11.1 to 11.5? Anyone else? Councillor Polly?
Yeah, 11.2 declarable.
11.something, no.
Yours through 11.3. Also declaring 11.3. Anyone else? We're
I
all
think I'll go 11.45.
11.45.
Share it around.
I don't want to be greedy.
Don't want to leave any other councillors out. Most of us got a question there. Anyone else? No, let's move on then. No apologies or leave of absence. Confirmation of the minutes. Councillor Spurden to move. Someone to second. Councillor Jensen. The minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of November taken as read and confirmed. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Let's get into this.
There are no petitions before us this morning. I'll move on to item 5.1, ordinary meeting action request for the auditor. Hand over to Ms. Hatch, who will lead us through that.
Councillors. Item 5.1 is the action report for Q1. This report identifies council's formal decisions and provides transparency of the officer responsible for any actions from the directorates of council. There are 6 items on the report from the period of 23rd of April 2020 to 30th of September 2022, which is Q1 of this financial year. 2 of those items are also included in today's meeting at item 7.2, the biosecurity plan, and 7.4, the name of council facilities. Has anyone got any questions on the report?
Questions, councillors? No? We have a recommendation there before us. Someone to move? Councillor Stewart, someone to second?
Cheers.
Councillor Mill, Councillor Stewart to speak.
I'd just like to thank the CEO that we have an update of maps where things are at in terms of getting our decisions implemented, so thank you.
Councillor Mill.
Oh, I echo Councillor Stewart. It's a great initiative to have this come to the table, and I'm happy to second to note that we get this report. Yeah.
2 speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Stewart to close.
Nothing further to add, thanks.
That will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 5.2, Audit and Risk Committee Chair.
Mr. Mayor, item 5.2 is the Audit and Risk Committee Chair, as you have said. Mr. Hayden Wright he's been an independent member of the Audit and Risk Committee for some time. The Audit and Risk Committee wish to have Mr. Hayden Wright as the chair for the remaining term of council. Now, the remaining term of council, the elections are 2024. However, with health concerns and disaster management, we never know what's going to happen. So we could potentially put a permanent date there, but the remaining term of council means for this term of council it will be Hayden Wright as the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee. Has anyone got any questions on the report?
Questions, councillors? Councillor Stewart.
So does that mean that when this council comes to an end, his term will end and therefore there'll be no chair of this committee and then the next council have to immediately do something?
I would say before that happens, there will be an extension where there'll be adequate handover, if there is a handover from one chair to the next chair of the Audit and Risk Committee in the new term of council.
Is it possible to have the term end, say, middle of the year rather than at the end of the term of council? That would send then to give the new council a chance to, rather than
Yes, that's
us
a
having to
decision.
extend it?
That's a decision for council, yes.
Are you foreshadowing a,
I'll foreshadow that I'll move that we make the end of the term
Yep.
the 30th of June 2024.
any other questions? Councillor Deborah?
Mayor Hartwig, the term for a chair, what is it normally? I thought it was like, it's 2 years. Okay, but a term for someone that's in a position in the Audit and Risk Committee, an external? Is that 4?
I don't know off the top of my head, I'll have to take.
Because I think the way it works is that they overlap, so there's always some consistency through it.
Yes, there is consistency. There's not, there's always handovers and that completed as well. So it's not just a cut and dry, you're finished, and there's no handover. And there's also the reporting and everything that goes in, there's an induction process that occurs. It's actually in the Audit and Risk Charter, which we're actually
Yes.
doing today as well.
I saw that mentioned.
Have a look in there.
I think Councillor Deborah's point is right, that the way that it's set up is so there is some continuity between
It's
members.
following it.
And I guess as long as what we're doing doesn't interfere with that continuity, is that your concern?
Right.
Yeah. Councillor Milne?
It's just going back to the term, remaining term of council, where was that derived from? And is there any reasoning behind that actual term being in this recommendation?
That was the advice given at the Audit and Risk Committee. But I would dare say it was a term that was, we'll do it till the end of the term of council. But my take on it was there was flexibility there with a date because of all these other things that we have seen occur over the last 12 to 18 months, that it can never be a definite date. But it is up to the council to decide.
Is there any other questions, councillors? I believe Councillor Stewart has moved an amendment to the recommendation that instead of for the remaining term of council, it is to the 30th of June, did you say?
Yeah, 30th of June 2024.
Is there someone to second that amendment? Councillor Deborah, Councillor Stewart to speak.
Well, we need someone to chair the Audit and Risk Committee meetings, and Hayden Wright's been doing that very well apparently, and happy to support to extend his tenure. And I think the amendment gives an opportunity for the new council to actually either reappoint or find a new chairperson.
Councillor Deborah?
Thank you. Yes, I like the idea of having come into this position, sitting down with people on the Audit and Risk who were in the previous council was useful for catching up on where things were, I found, from a councillor point of view. Hayden Wright is an asset that we've got in that committee, and he does very well, so very happy with this. Thank you.
Two speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against? The other speakers for? Councillor Milne?
I'd just like to echo that Councillor Stewart and Councillor Devereux, that it does give a good time frame for having this chair. It's actually an integral position in council, the service they do. I had raised that terming was a little loose, and having a date in there gives that surety, so I'm happy to have this moved.
Any speakers against or for? Councillor Stewart to close.
Nothing further to add, thanks.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 5.3, the Audit and Risk Committee Charter.
So, Audit and Risk Committee Charter has been reviewed. This is a normal review that we do, and it's best practice to continually update our documents. The changes are administrative in nature and do not really impact the intent of the Charter, nor the operation of the Audit and Risk Committee. It's under a new format. There are additional definitions and clarification of reporting responsibilities and meeting attendees. It's also the removal of one of the rolling plans in there because that was subject to change, so it wasn't always current as it was listed in the charter. So that's why it's been removed. Are there any questions on the changes to the audit and risk charter?
Questions, councillors? Great, we have a recommendation there before us. Someone to move? Councillor Devereux, someone to second? Councillor Fredman, Councillor Devereux to speak.
Thank you. I hope everyone supports this. The old charter, as we would have seen from Councillor Polly's request to have the old one sent out so you can compare it. There aren't a lot of changes, and the ones that are made I thought were positive and heading in the right direction. I know that even though it doesn't look like a lot's happened, I know that there was a lot of talk and back and forth about this within the audit and risk to get it right. So very happy to push this.
Councillor Fredman?
I believe council should support this motion. The charter is always important for a group which is basically external experts, for want of a better word. That's, I think, doing a very good job at looking from above, looking from the side, looking at everything from every direction other than from within. It's a good thing to have, and it needs a charter, and I recommend we support this motion.
Two speakers for the recommendation. Any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Devereux to close.
Nothing more to add, thank you.
With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 5.4, the flood recovery plan.
I'll please invite Director Adrian Burns to the table, please.
You are.
Advisor's not here. Is she here? I'll just go and check.
I think Audrey's.
How can we start?
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 5.4 is the Flood Recovery Plan 2022 to 24. I'm presenting the paper in my role as Manager Audit, Governance, Integrity and Risk. In that portfolio is the Disaster Management portfolio, and in that I perform the role of Deputy Local Disaster Coordinator. My role is in the response to local government support to the Local Disaster Management Group, and in this report it provides the reporting mechanism back through to the Local Disaster Management Group and then back through to the Queensland Government through the Queensland Recovery Plan. The Queensland Reconstruction Authority did a lot of work around the state talking to different local governments, and it all the local governments' plans form part of the Queensland Recovery Plan. So we've been working very closely with the recovery team, which is Ms Stark and Mr Adrian Burns as local recovery coordinator. They've been doing a lot of work across the community, and the plan has been attached to provide a coordinated effort in how we perform functions, but also how we advocate for more funding to do more work and do it in a coordinated approach, also considering our corporate plan and its objectives. So I'm just going to hand over to Ms Stark, who was responsible for a lot of the preparation of this plan.
Thank you very much. So as outlined, the report has been a collaborative effort from local government as well as the stakeholders involved with recovery. The recovery plan sets out the key recovery functions, if you like, which cover human social recovery, economic recovery, environment recovery, built environment and roads and transport. So it's a fairly high-level document that really guides our actions until June 2024. It's a living document, so it can be changed and varied in response to emerging issues. And it provides us with a bit of a roadmap on how we coordinate our resources in that time frame. One key element of the plan is it helps us to leverage funding of both the state and governments to assist council in delivering these actions. Thank you, Mr.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Devereux?
Mayor Hartwig, I was just wondering, I mean, a quick look at it, is there any mention of the evacuation centres in here?
So there's a section through you, Mr Mayor, in regard to damage and impacts, which was on page 3. So it outlines the number of people that were evacuated and accommodated in the evacuation centres. Through you, Mr Mayor, if you're looking for what actions we're taking for future. So may I have a question, please? So yes, evacuation centres are noted in the report in terms of the damage and impacts.
Okay. Mayor Hartwig, I mean more in the case of like measures of success and that sort of thing, so actions, future actions. I saw it's got hubs, recovery hubs, but that's not the same as an evacuation centre.
Through you, Mr Mayor, as outlined earlier, there are different stages in disaster management. So one is the response stage. So evacuation centres are part of the response stage in that it happens...
Part of the recovery.
Correct. So when we move to recovery hubs are set up by the state government, whereas we lead the evac centres in this way.
Okay. Mayor Hartwig, and this will be my final question. Just with the measures of success, I noticed that you've got a lot of the number of residents affected or the number of impacted properties. I was wondering if timeframes wouldn't be a better judge of measure of success when it comes to how things are going for residents and for the region. That was my main concern when I looked at it.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there are a number of what we'd call quantitative, which is really the numbers, because they are things that are perhaps sometimes easier to measure, if you like, rather than the qualitative, which is people's recovery processes. There are a number of timeframes in there, such as, for example, in human social, the number of community recovery events supported by council to June 2024. So we have put some timeframes on some of them, but admittedly not on all of them. Another one in here, the number of environmental recovery projects implemented to June 2024. So that's something that as a council, we can measure how many grants we're giving out and how many are delivered and acquitted within that time frame. The number of flood impacted residents supported with emergency and or transitional housing, that's something that we would very much rely on our colleagues at the state government, as they have the lead responsibility for the housing of people following a disaster. So where we could put our hand on heart and go, we'll be able to track that data, we've put a time frame. On the other ones, admittedly, the time frame's up there, but we're certainly happy to work with our colleagues around tightening that during the implementation stage of this. So now that if the plan gets adopted today, we can certainly sit down and work out an action plan of who's the lead on this and when are you going to get this delivered by.
Through you, Mr Mayor. As Ms Stark said, it's a living document. So as things progress and we find that there needs to be more or less, that's what living document means. It can be flexible, and in the approach, this is a guide.
I suppose just from that then, Mr Mayor Hartwig, if I could, I don't understand how the number of something is a measure of success, because is it a success if there's not many, or is it a success if there are many? You know what I mean?
Yes,
I don't understand how that can be.
It depends on the measure in place. So it depends on the measure.
Okay.
So through you, Mr Mayor, we're not saying that a higher number is positive there, we're just saying a number. So we would then assess that, whether that meant good or bad, depending on what the issue was at the time.
I suppose a percentage would be a better, yeah. But anyway, that's all I wanted to just bring that up. So thank you, Mayor Hartwig.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Miller?
Just noting that it is a living document and we're getting recommended to endorse this today, are we endorsing it with the full knowledge that it is a living document, may be amended after this endorsement, with our full endorsement that those living document parameters are in place? Or does it have to come back to us?
No, it would be, if this document sits under the local disaster management group, and any changes would be also reported through to that group, but we provide reporting back to council in our quarterly reporting, and any changes can be updated and recorded through there. So you'll always be aware of any changes that have been made.
Any other questions, councillors? Have a recommendation there before us. Someone to move, Councillor Smerdon, someone to second. Councillor Mill, Councillor Smerdon to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
think this is a good report and it's been well presented by staff. The Recovery Group has done a great job with the floods we've had this year, I think. They don't get the limelight like their big brother, disaster management, but they do all the legwork. I think it's a good report and sets us in good stead for the rest, any other future events that we have. So I'm happy to move.
Councillor Miller?
I'd like to echo Councillor Snowman, echoing a lot today, but it is a lot of legwork. The recovery is probably the one of the larger, resilience building and before it, an event's small and recovery is huge. Having this plan in place is a great statement of intent and what we're actually going to do and gives everyone a good playing field. And I do note that, yes, it is a living document. Disaster managing always is a living document. You don't know where it's coming and what it is, so it needs to be so. And I'm happy that we're going to get any changes reported. I just wanted to make sure that there was no hiccups because we do need to have living ability and act on real time, not council meeting time. So really happy to have this plan endorsed today.
Two speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against, any other speakers for? Councillor Smedley. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Sorry. The number of things I like about this plan, one is you've got 5 different themes which cover the whole community. So you've got human and social, economic, environment, built environment, roads and transport. And it does have timeframes and recovery tasks, objectives, so and it's very simple to follow. So I think anyone could read it, understand it and follow it and see what council's intending. So thank you for that.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Smedley closed. That will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Claire, staff in touch. We'll move on to section 6.1, procurement panel report for November 22.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll take the report as read, noting it has 3 components. First one being the minutes of 3 procurement panel meetings and fine minutes. The second one is request for council to approve the contract to Offaly Civil Proprietary Limited in response to tender RFT 2223, the sewer pump station G1 relocation. And the third item is in relation to a setting up of a panel for minor works for flood recovery. This is in addition to the last meeting where council approved a major works panel. This panel assists us in expeditiously doing flood recovery works. We identified minor works which we are encouraging local vendors to apply. So take any questions.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Stewart.
Which is sewer pump station 1?
Through the chair, that's the one that's nearest the wastewater treatment plant down off opposite Nestle down
in behind.
Okay. So you gave me the wrong answer the other day.
I should have known. Sorry.
Good I asked, so it'd be nice to know. The other question on the same sewer pump station is that, so we're awarding an alternate, you're suggesting we award an alternate plan to the original, so how is it different and how is it better?
Would you like me to come around?
Come on down, Pete.
Through the chair, so as the report was written, this was put out as a traditional design then construct project, so we put out a design for pricing. The conforming tenders were like an in situ pump station. This cheaper alternate was a proposed change to the emergency storage tanks, which involved us just making a little bit of redesign. So it was the tender offering an alternative, still achieved the same result, but we just have made the layout of the pump station a little bit cheaper so that the tanks could be not so deeply buried, so shallow.
Any other questions? Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation there before, someone to move. Councillor Milne, Councillor Spurden, second, Councillor Milne to speak.
Oh, we're just receiving notes of the minutes of the procurement panel. I said it before, I like having these come through. We just know what's happening in the procurement space, so I'm happy to move this recommendation.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, okay, councillor. Mills, sentiments, just keeps us informed of what's actually happening with our different departments, so it's good to see.
Two speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Milne to close.
I'm happy to move to the vote.
With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.1.
No, three recommendations.
Two recommendations for this item, mate.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry. Recommendation 2, the alternative offer to Offway Civil. Someone to move. Councillor Fredman, someone to second. Councillor Waldock, Councillor Fredman to speak.
We've got to have sewer pump stations, otherwise we'd be in a hell of a mess. I support this recommendation.
Councillor Waldock.
Yeah, look, happy to second.
Two speakers for the recommendation. Any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Milne.
I'm just glad we have procurement processes where we can actually get value for money and have a alternative space room to move that. The only thing I have difficulty with is the G parts, because I get it wrong all the time. So yeah, which one was we great at, but I'm really happy that we've got a good outcome on this one. So.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Fredman to close. That will go to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Recommendation 3 there in relation to the register of pre-qualified suppliers for construction services, minor works. Someone to move. Councillor Fredman, Councillor Smurden second, Councillor Fredman speak.
We need a register of pre-qualified suppliers, particularly in the circumstance we're in. Purchasing, if we're not prepared, can take an awful long time and can be seen to be making council inefficient. So this speeds up the purchasing process. It's all above board. Let's get into it and do the flood recovery.
Councillor Smurden.
Echo councillor Fredman, sentiments, and hopefully it does speed up our response. And do get some action, so yeah, happy to see.
Two speakers for the recommendation. Any speakers against? Anyone? Other speakers for? Councillor Fredman to close. That will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Catterall, Redmond. We've got all item 7.1 now, Community Sustainability Directorate update. Mr. Burns, how are you?
Good morning, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much, councillors. I do have the team here for specific questions, but I won't bring them to the table unless there are questions that relate to their operational area. This is our quarterly report. It is quite a long report this month, and we're quite proud of it. I'll take it as read. However, I would be interested to know whether this is the level of detail that councillors would continue to like, and or happy to take questions.
Any questions? Councillor Milne?
Oh, I'd just like to respond to that question. This is awesome detail to come through, and this is the type of stuff that I really like coming out of council for public knowledge. It really highlights where our operational branches or direct or whatever they are, parts of council are and what they're achieving. I would really fully support this as a full document sitting on our website for anyone to access. So that's my response to the question you had for us. I don't actually have any other questions of the report because it's so detailed.
Councillor Fredman?
It's a question probably for you, Mr Mayor and the CEO. This to me is amazing in its detail and amazing in its length. I wonder if you could transfer some of the staff who've written this to infrastructure services, who are notoriously short on words, to get some balance within our organisation.
That's a habit of engineers, though, isn't it? One of their characteristic flaws. Councillor Stewart?
I've got an item with Gympie Airdrome, which just to appoint a reporting officer, and to action some recommendations. Is that, how does that fit into the budget?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the Gympie Aerodrome is an aircraft landing area. It doesn't require an aircraft reporting officer. It's basically an uncontrolled airspace. However, we do have a commercial services coordinator and a commercial services officer that is currently being recruited. Both of those people will be trained in aircraft reporting operations. There's a course in February that they will be doing. And in essence, it won't have any impact on our operational budget over and above what is existingly in the financial year 22-23 budget, and similarly will be included in future budgets moving forward.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Smith?
Just wondering how we get the blind fox problem near the hospital.
Sorry, Councillor.
Just wondering how we're progressing with the flying fox problem at the hospital.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. The Flying Fox programme near the hospital, we did a significant amount of work last year. The last count that we had, it had reduced from around 400,000 last year to around 3,000, but we are aware that they have gone up to about 30,000 at the start of this summer season. The Flying Fox is doing great. We have put in irrigation systems, and we have undertaken other works to discourage those flying foxes returning. That seems to be working. We've done a lot of weed removal in that space as well. The return, if you like, 10% of what it was last year. It's still quite a lot of flying foxes, and it's still quite a lot for the community to accept there. They're still quite noisy at certain times. They're still quite smelly. But in essence, they have reduced significantly. We were going to do a little bit of a concerted push in terms of removal of some of the vegetation, and we had to modify the sprinkler output that deters them roosting because they had pups. We're not allowed to do anything during the pup season. We're just in that season now, so I've not got an update since about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Specifically, but we were expecting to be able to start some of that work again early December.
So have any of them gone back to Widgie Crossing, or?
Sorry, I probably should have answered that, Mr Mayor. We have commenced the work to revegetate Widgie Crossing. We've not, we've done some work out there. We've not done all the work that we were planning to do, and we've not noticed any significant return. There are some. But not any significant numbers of return back there, and we've not done an audit in that area for a while. We'll probably do an audit sometime middle of next year, I reckon. Probably about this time next year, a bit earlier.
Any other questions, councillors? I just have a comment, Mr Burns, in relation to the report. I think it highlights the amount of work that council undertakes. It actually doesn't include everything. I know there are some large events that haven't been included, but the report certainly highlights just one part of council's workload and particularly their engagement with the community. So it's good to have that document there so people can see that a lot of work is being done. So thank you, and appreciate the effort from the staff.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm sure the team will take that on board and accept that. I just sit here. I don't really do any of this work. It's all these people. So they do all that and they do all the writing. So any thanks from councillors goes to the team. They've done an excellent job this morning.
Have a recommendation there before us, councillors. Someone to move. Councillor Devereux, Councillor Mills, a second. Councillor Devereux, speak.
I would like to say thank you very much. Firstly, it is an excellent report. It's great to see the numbers. I know that the gallery has been fairly well attended at the events that I've gone to, the openings. I actually thought the numbers mentioned in one of them were probably a little shy on what I saw when I was there, but I don't know, maybe there were more staff than what I thought.
Through Mr Mayor, it's what we count. We don't manage to count them all sometimes.
Yeah. But the exhibitions have been excellent lately that I've seen, and I wish the numbers were up for the one about the Endeavour stuff, Artistic Endeavour, I think it was called. As for the other stuff, the bats in particular, as you know, I hold them close to my heart. I do worry about the residents there because we have had a number when I first came in who I was particularly worried about their mental health with what they were going through. So thank you for the efforts of the council, the organisation, for getting in there and helping out with that. And yeah, I encourage everyone to vote for this. Thank you.
Councillor Miller?
I've just said it before, this is an excellent summary for the directorate. It was like over 20 pages of riveting reading for me. I don't get to read a novel very often. A couple of highlights for me was the history section of our libraries. There's a need, and I would like to highlight that and hope someone picks it up outside the media world, that any residents that do have any historical documents or photos and stuff, our team can actually take them and store them as a digital copy. So I thought that was something great to highlight. Yes, all our venue and gallery and sale yards data and usage numbers was great to note. Is that actually being used? Down my way, Rainbow Beach Anglers Let's Tackle Waste program. It's a really good waste and community group program. I'm really proud that's actually happening down that way. We've got, shout out to the team for arranging the Country Club burn. That was just one simple email into council and the team took over. So it shows how our system really, really works when they have that communication going through. I now know that we have there is a Mosquito Bites magazine in existence out there, and well done for the team for starring in that. So if anyone gets a copy of Mosquito Bites, read page 33 to 38, Staff Superstars. The staff short-term accommodation has come up with the planning department, and the team is actioning those complaints, and an erosion and sediment policy, which is pretty exciting. And I see that there's coastal communities with compliance through the holidays, tackling camping, dumping and other issues in collaboration with other agencies. So all in all, it shows that this direction is absolutely a big beast to manage, and you say you don't really do anything, but that does take leadership to have these guys work under, and it shows that level of commitment the team have through, so it does channel down and up. So I'd just like to say congratulations and thank you to everyone on the team. So happy to second.
Two speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Debrett opposed?
No. Right.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Stewart.
I just want to highlight a couple of things. One is, I know there's a number of groups events had to move from Civic Centre to Pavilion, and they've been really happy with the staff at the Pavilion and the setup, to the extent where I think they probably continue intending to use the Pavilion rather than the Civic Centre. But it's really good how the staff have worked with community groups to get events going really well. I mentioned strategic planning and developing our planning scheme. And to me, that's one of the three most important things that this council will be doing. And I do note, I know we talked about this in portfolio meeting, that we'll be having lots of workshops about the planning scheme. So we can look forward to that to next year.
I'm sure you
days.
will. I'm sure Councillor Stewart will look forward to it.
No one else will. And also, I was talking to someone on the biosecurity community reference group, if that's the right name, and they're really happy with the direction that's going and how that's being included into helping develop policy. So that's good. Thank you.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Debrett opposed?
Mayor Hartwig, just in closing, I would like to make a couple more points. First of all, the studio trials, I don't know how many councillors got out and had a look at it. It was fantastic, the bits I saw. I actually bought my first bit of actual art that I've ever owned, and it sits at my entrance and makes me happy every time I walk in. And that was a piece by Ellie Stern that I love. It's called Housewife, and Councillor Jensen worked out the reason I like it is the houses look like pencils. The First Nations Regional Partnership Project, which Council put money towards along with Noosa and Sunshine Coast. I attended that down in the Nambour with a couple of other councillors and staff, and some excellent recommendations came out of it as well. And I would just like to finally mention the library. The library is one of the best assets we've got in this region for residents. The staff are fantastic. The stuff they put on are fantastic. My kids are sewing library bags and all sorts of stuff down there. 3D printers. I think my daughter wants to save up $30 so she can print a dragon. Yeah, they do so much with so little because they don't have the space to really do everything they need to do. But my goodness, they fit it all in where they can. So I would encourage everyone to back this. Thank you.
With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Byrne.
councillors.
Move on to item 7.2, extension of the Gympie Regional Council biosecurity plan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've brought Alex Stengel to the table. Alex will present this item.
Thank you. Through the chair, look, this report essentially is, I guess, a processual type report or an administrative report. We're just asking and seeking council's endorsement to extend our current biosecurity plan for a little bit longer until we finalise our draft plan, and hopefully that will be done in the third quarter of this financial year or early next year. So yeah, basically I'm just seeking council's support in that way. As simple as that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there is one other thing in regards to this. Councillors and a number of the community have asked about the Weeds Committee. You'll note that this instigates the reconvening of a slightly different name. We can't have a committee as such, it'll be an advisory group, but there'll be a Weeds and Pest Advisory Group. It will be different to the biosecurity advisory group that Councillor Stewart referenced, but we will start with the basis of the previous Weeds Committee to reconvene that, and Ms Stengel's team will coordinate all that.
Any questions, councillors? Have two recommendations there before us in one. Someone to move, Councillor Smurden, Councillor Stewart to second. Councillor Smurden to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As I've stated previously, I think biosecurity is an important role in council. It needs to be enforced and to be kept current. I also think that the re-establishment of the Weeds and Pest Advisory Group is a good move. I think that was very popular in past council, and it tends to get the message out there, disperse the message better to the community. Yes, I'm very happy to move.
Councillor Stewart.
I'm happy that take you a little bit longer to get the biosecurity plan in place to make sure it's top notch. So I'm happy to second.
Two speakers for the recommendation, two speakers against. The other speakers for. Councillor Smurden to close.
Happy to move.
With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stengel. 7.3, must decide Ambermore State Forest.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I brought one of our coordinators up today. Ms Wheatley is our Urban Design Coordinator. I'm not sure how many councillors have met Erin, but please, hope you can welcome her to the table. Erin has been working on this particular report. There is there's probably some degree of interest in this. We are expecting questions. We'll take the report as read if that's okay, but we do expect there may be questions from council. So.
The workshop item we had. So, any questions, councillors? We had a good robust discussion during the workshop. So. There's no question, council. We have a recommendation there before us. Councillor Fredman to move, Councillor Baldock to second. Councillor Fredman to speak.
This is one of those situations which we don't know what the future is, basically, in terms of what Gympie Muster Limited are going to do, what the state government's going to do, and what the locals are going to do. Having had my ear burnt off on the weekend because of a function out there, all I can say is this is the best way out for us at this point in time. A lot of people support festivals but don't want them next door or in their backyard, so to speak. So a bit depends on the type of festival. I'm not sure, as I said before, what the future holds for publicly acceptable festivals, but certain genre of music and volume of noise does upset our good ratepayers. So at this point in time, this is the safe way to go.
Councillor Ward.
Yes, through the chair, yeah, this is a liability that we'd be taking on if we were to, so, yeah, happy just to bump it and keep it at arm's length.
2 speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Freedman to close.
Nothing more at this stage. I'm sure this matter will be coming back to us in some form at some time, but I repeat, this is the safe way to go.
With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.4, naming of council facilities. Councillor Melbourne has a declaration.
I, Councillor Jess Milne, believe I have a declarable conflict of interest in this matter due to my committee position of one of the requests for naming of facility mentioned in the report. However, I believe I can consider this matter unbiased and in the public interest as it is a general policy and not specific to any place, so I wish to remain in the meeting.
Councillors, we've had a declaration there from Councillor Milne. Any questions for her in relation to that? She's requested to stay in the room. Is there someone to move that Councillor Milne stay in the room? Councillor Devro, someone to second? Councillor Polly? Councillor Devro to speak?
Oh, I don't think there's much to say. This is about a policy, not the actual naming of something, so.
It's a general item, it's not specific, so happy for any part of the discussion.
2 speakers for the resolution, any speakers against? That will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Any other declarations before we move on? No? Great. I'll hand over to you, Mr. Burns.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Wheatley staying at the table. We will take the report as read. However, there was robust discussion about this one too at our last workshop, and as a result of that, we have made some changes. So I'll just hand over to Ms. Wheatley in case there's anything she wishes to add. But I think we've made the changes that were requested by council, and we're happy to take questions unless you've got anything you want.
No, we've made those changes requested. Yeah.
Councillor James.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just on the policy, 4.2, you've added council officers may also propose the naming of a facility. Should that be councillors or council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is normal that council officers can sometimes suggest the naming of a facility. There are occasions where members of the community would make representations but may not want to be known to have done so. So that's one of the reasons why. There are some other reasons why officers may suggest it being appropriate or it being suited to enhancements of the region or a strategic planning urban design function of the region.
It would still come to council for approval. So even though the recommendation would come from staff, it still comes to council for approval.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the process wouldn't be any different. It would be identical to being suggested by council. Sometimes members of the community will actually write into us and will write to officers or write to the CEO, and that's another methodology that is nominally officer recommendation.
Any other questions, councillors? No? I have a recommendation. No, Councillor Deborah.
You should say council officers and councillors then. I just don't. I don't understand why it's there either. It's if that's the normal, if they can do it anyway. Anyway.
Is there a question, Councillor Deborah?
That's part of it. Should it say councillors as well?
And councillors.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think when we wrote it, we presumed that any person or organisation includes councillors and members of the community. As I said, there are occasions where officers may, there'll be, you know, if we were doing a new greenfield development or something, there may be a suggestion that the officers would bring to the table. It could be there and it cannot be there. If council wishes to take it out, we can amend the resolution and we can take it out, or we can add in councillors to that section. Either way, it doesn't really change the intent of the report.
I think it might be wise just to add it in, add councillors in.
Or take it, if any person or Mayor Harvey, if any person or organisation covers councillors, then it covers the organisation as well. So I can just take it out.
We'll just adding councillors, Mr Mayor, is that what you'd like?
Oh, I'm either or. I'm happy to have councillors put in there, but if Councillor Devereux wants it taken out,
We can take it out.
I don't particularly
Yeah.
want, it's just, it does seem like a double up.
We'll just take it out.
too easy. So the recommendation is there with the understanding that that part will be removed.
Has to be in the recommendation.
What's that?
Because it says as attached in the recommendation and that copy isn't attached, so it probably should be added. That's my.
Through you, Mr Mayor, you could just add a little bit of the recommendation to say amended as requested at the meeting.
Can we just do that, please? Thanks. Councillors happy with that?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, we have a recommendation to before us, someone to move. Councillor Jensen, someone to second. No rush. Councillor Stewart, Councillor Jensen to speak.
It's been a long time coming, a naming policy. Congratulations, you said you'd get it done before Christmas and you did. So good job, glad to have this in place. Thank you.
Councillor Stewart.
I guess I'm not a great one on naming things after people. When you die, we die, and that's it. Anyway, there is good to have a process, and so I support the process.
Two speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against? Now the speakers for. Councillor Jensen to close.
Said, thank
That
you.
will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8.1, Water and Sewage Service Annual Review. Again, Henry.
Morning, Mr Mayor, morning councillors. For item 8.1, I've invited Mr Manning along to present the report to you today. It's only a short report, but a report we must bring to you annually. I'd like to hand over to Peter.
Through the chair, I'll take the report as read, but just in summary, the Act requires us to do this review of our service areas annually. We did a relatively substantial one last year, which brought quite a lot in. This year is just really minor tweaks that have been, when a subdivision has been completed, that becomes, one lot becomes 6 or 7, which is the relatively small numbers. So, happy to take any questions.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Milne?
Oh, just a small minor clarification, because it does say in the regulation that we have to, it's 2 parts, the areas, and that we're going to provide the service. So by the recommendation declare its service, is indicating that we are providing the service. Is that right?
Almost. The service area is the area that we can provide a service. So not all the lots might be connected because people haven't developed them yet, but that's the area that when people ask us, we will provide water and service.
I'll just clarify, it's just that we are providing the service to the community as this water service, and the areas as 2 parts. So I just read the legislation and went, oh, so yeah. So that's it, we are providing the service in general.
Yes.
That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Polly?
So, just looking at the map of Gympie Southside in particular, because obviously in the media recently, we know there is new developments happening out Lawson Road, potentially. So potentially if that gets approved, that's not on this map. So I'm just trying to understand, you've got a massive development happening, but it's not within the confined. So it's just not going to be suited because maybe I was assuming that if you're having a 800 lot development, you might make them connect something somewhere, like you did with Echelon.
Part of that is the timing of when we declare the area.
Yeah.
Because if declaring an area is also meaning that we can readily provide infrastructure. So it means someone can connect for the sake of the $2,000 water connection.
Right.
But a big subdivision that's needs some significant infrastructure that council isn't intending to pay for, we want the developer to pay for, will perhaps initially be outside the area, and then once it's connected, we'll declare it inside the area.
Okay. So
Some of it, it's the timing of when those things happen.
right. So the way I understand that then is, this is the area that we're responsible for, but if a developer comes along, that could be included in at their cost at a later date. But
Yes,
we're not
once we've gone through that planning process and working
Okay.
out who pays for the infrastructure.
That's fine, thanks.
Any other questions, councillors? Have a recommendation there before us, someone to move. Councillor Smurden, someone to second. Councillor Polly, Councillor Smurden speaking.
Yeah, happy to move. It's a regulatory issue that we document where our areas are for the service by council. So, yes, just something you've got to do, so happy to move.
Councillor Polly?
Another necessary piece of legislation. It's good to see it expanding year by year.
Two speakers for the recommendation, any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Smurden closed.
Happy to move.
With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, council staff. That concludes our ordinary meeting agenda items for today. We'll have a break maybe 10:30 or thereabouts. We'll come back for the in-committee matters.
Question. Councillor Polly?
Hey?
That was a good question. The question was good.
Yeah.
Get me better understanding.